I created life itself in this jar of murky water. And if it wasn't for jars of water just like this, Frankenstein would never have created his monster. I'm Hugh, and in this video I'll explain the weird history of spontaneously generated life, and I'll even give you some easy to follow recipes to do it yourself. In Mary Shelley's novel, Victor Frankenstein created life from dead matter. And that's what I've done. Frankenstein created a monster. I created tiny creatures called Infusoria. And there is in fact a direct connection from Infusoria to Frankenstein.
Infusoria is an old-fashioned name that's still used by aquarists, that's fish keepers, but not so much by serious scientists. They prefer to use more precise terms such as protozoa or more generally microorganisms. Now, these organisms are plentiful in pond water and in ditches like this one. But how do they get into that water in the first place? Do they reproduce like cats, dogs and people? Or do they just appear apparently out of thin air? For centuries, people couldn't agree on the answer to that question.
Those people who believed that the microorganisms arose naturally, that is spontaneously, pointed to Infusoria as evidence. Infusoria can appear spontaneously, apparently in clean, sterile water. Now let me give you a recipe. Take a jar, fill it with water, preferably boiled, so you know that nothing is living there already. Then add some vegetable matter. Different recipes say different things, such as hay, lettuce, leaves, or banana skins. I've put hay here into one jar and a banana skin into another one. And after a few days in water, my hay and my banana skin will start to rot. The water goes cloudy as the bacteria feed on the rotting matter, and then a few days later the Infusoria start to appear and they eat up the bacteria. Now, I first learnt about Infusoria when I was a kid, long ago. I was a keen aquarist at that time. Whenever I bred baby fish, the books told me I needed to make some Infusoria to feed them. But where does the Infusoria come from? Well, many people thought it was a byproduct of the rotting hay or rotting banana skin, and that idea goes back centuries. In the 4th century BC, the Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote a massive, multi-volume work called On the Generation of Animals, in which he gives a detailed and often surprisingly accurate description of animal mating and reproduction, but he also says that some animals grow spontaneously. For example, some come from putrefying earth or vegetable matter, as is the case with a number of insects, while others grow in decaying mud or dung. Zoom forward 20 centuries or so, and many people still believed that. Jan Baptista van Helmont, a 17th century Flemish scientist, discovered that if you leave a heap of old rags mixed up with wheat kernels, you end up with mice. He thought that the mice were literally created from the rags and wheat. An 18th century English scientist, John Needham, did an experiment in which he put mutton gravy into a sealed jar and boiled it up to kill anything it might contain. The jar was sealed so that nothing could enter it from outside. Even so, microscopic organisms appeared in the gravy in the jar. There was one more step that led to the Frankenstein monster. In the late 1700s, Luigi Galvani did some experiments that appeared to show that dead creatures could be reanimated, or at least their legs could. He passed some electricity through the leg of a dead frog, and the leg moved. Causing muscles to contract due to electricity is, of course, altogether different from reanimating a corpse, but not everyone realised that. Which brings us back to Mary Shelley and Frankenstein. In her 1831 introduction to this book, she says that she discussed Galvani's experiments with her husband, the poet Percy Shelley, and also with the poet Lord Byron, and she mentions that they talked of the experiments of Dr. Darwin, that's Erasmus Darwin, that's Charles Darwin's grandfather, who preserved a piece of vermicelli in a glass case till by some extraordinary means it began to move with voluntary motion. Now, this is a somewhat confused description of Erasmus Darwin's actual experiments. As far as we know, he didn't really reanimate pasta, but he did do some experiments with microorganisms that seemed to give some support to the idea of spontaneous generation. Mary Shelley linked this idea with Galvani's frog's leg experiment, as she says that she wondered if Perhaps a corpse could be reanimated. Galvanism, she said, had given tokens of such things. Now, unlike Galvani, however, she did not use electricity to animate the creature in the novel. It was in the 1931 film that the creature was brought to life with a lightning bolt. That scene does not occur in her book. All that Victor Frankenstein says in the novel is that through means which are not well explained, he managed to infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. But what about John Needham's experiments that I mentioned earlier, when life appeared in a sealed bottle of boiled broth? Well, if his experiment had been as rigorous as he described it, then life should not have appeared. We can only assume that something about the experiment was not quite as it seemed. Maybe the bottle wasn't quite as sterile or as airtight as he thought it was. Louis Pasteur finally put the nail in the coffin of spontaneous generation in the late 1850s to 60s when he devised an experiment similar to John Needham, but with one critical difference. Unlike Needham, Pasteur didn't boil his broth in a sealed flask. He boiled it in a flask that was open to the air, but it was a special sort of flask. It had an S-shaped neck, a so-called swan neck flask. Dust and other particles that fell into the open end settled in the lower part of the curved neck, and no microorganisms grew in the broth. But when the flask was tipped up so that the collected particles fell into the broth, microorganisms started to appear. Pasteur concluded that the microorganisms were carried into the fluid in or on those particles. Let me get back to my own Infusoria experiment. I boiled my water, filled 2 jars, put hay in one, banana skins in the other, and let them fester for a few days. Now, let's see if I've got anything. To do that, I put some drops of water onto a slide, and I need to look at them in my microscope. There are microorganisms in both samples, though there are more in the hay infusion than in the bottle with the banana skins.
So the microorganisms that form Infusoria get into the jar from the outside. They may be introduced on the hay, which, like this, I took from these bales, or they can be introduced on banana skins, or they may just fall onto the surface of the water. And the rotting matter in the water feeds a population of bacteria, which the protozoa or Infusoria then eat.
Even though I haven't literally created life like Frankenstein, I still find it kind of magical, extraordinary that all this teeming life can appear in a simple jar of water.
So the microorganisms...